welcome to my session. I'm gonna talk a bit about my entrepreneurial life. I think they asked me to talk about about my history. I think I'm a software engineer and serial entrepreneur, mainly specialized in food tech. So it's my pleasure to chat a bit about that. Let me share my screen. I presented a couple of slides. Maybe that's interesting to see as well. Cool. Let me share my screen. Yeah. If you can't hear me, send a message on the chat. I think we have some people here that can check this. Okay, cool. So let me start with a bit history. Maybe not everyone know me, but I'm pretty sure you have encountered or used or a system that I made, because although I'm now 35 years old, I have been almost 20 years in the software hospitality industry. Right. So one of the things I did, I founded multiple companies, is in 2010, I founded one of the first iPad point of sales. That was still, a point of sales is a system that runs restaurants. But what makes it unique is we were one of the first 3,000 apps on the App Store, right? I feel so old, but, time has gone quite quickly. Back then, nobody believed that, the app or point of sale on iPad or cloud would take over the world, but that became very evidently very quickly. That company, I grew that in a very short time, over 40 countries, with customers in 40 countries, and in 2014, I even merged that company with Lightspeed. Lightspeed is today one of the biggest cloud-based point of sale vendors. Doing hospitality and retail. And at Lightspeed, I ran then also the hospitality division, right? So I ran the hospitality division from 2014, that company, to just before Lightspeed IPO'd. It was in 2019, before all this mess with COVID happened, one of the top 5 IPOs in North America, with customers in 100 countries. So that brought me to the second part of my journey, or my second company I'm doing. I think at Lightspeed, one of the things I saw was the transition of the rise of offline to online. So you saw a lot of you had this in retail where everyone's selling online, but it didn't happen actually in the restaurant industry. We saw there a massive shift as well. Delivery service provider, you saw a lot of customers wanting or having a lot of online channels, where they saw that 30% of their total restaurant revenue was coming from the guys of Uber, Deliveroo, Glovo, DoorDash, and so on. So I set up Deliverect as a new startup, and actually utilized the lesson learned through the years to again scale quite quickly. So Deliverect is now 2 years old. To give you an idea, I think in 2 years, we raised over more than 20 million euros. We're almost at 100 people with customers again in 4 continents. I think what makes it again unique is that we're growing really fast, and I think with the lesson learned, I'm trying to do everything a bit quicker, but that's more efficient. And so it's my pleasure today to tell you a bit about a couple lessons. What I think is important to create fast scaling startups and make it very successful. Because it's limited in time, I made 8 points that we can discuss about, that I utilize each time I do a business, or when I'm investing in business. That's the advice I'm getting, right? But before I start, really maybe very short, a bit about Deliverect. As I told you, it was very important where you saw a shift of offline to online for restaurants. So Deliverect itself is a gateway that helps restaurant FMCG to sell online and be multi-brand and multi-channel. And what does that mean? It means that today you have a lot of these virtual kitchens, dark kitchens, restaurant that from one kitchen is selling multiple brands on a Deliveroo or Uber and so on. And that causes a lot of mess of having a lot of tablets, completely a lack of efficiency in operations. And we help restaurant or any business to tackle that. So we allow F&B, food and beverage business, to sell online and handle, as you can see here, a ton of channels. So what we do is we try to remove all these tablets and create a solution that gets all your online orders from any online channel directly into your restaurant systems, printing it and resolving all the operational side. So it's quite, I would say, important these days. It was already quite important pre-COVID, but I think with COVID, where restaurants are all locked down, we helped thousands and thousands of restaurants in the world, not just to survive, but really thrive. So I think that's super important. Yeah. I think what's important as well is, and what makes us quite unique is, each time we do a business, we are not doing it for a short term. And that brings also a bit maybe to my story. I think I got rolled in this restaurant hospitality world because of my parents. I think when you need to believe to do stuff with a purpose. And why is that? My father actually created one of the first restaurant point of sale in Belgium for Asian restaurants, right? And my purpose was not to take over his business. So my biggest fear was if I'm going to take over his business, it's going to be quite nightmare. It's software made in 1989. How am I going to do that? That being said, because of my upbringing, I was super passionate about hospitality. And, and especially my father, my parents always told me, hey, let's help these restaurants. It's very hard, not easy to survive. And that's, I think, what drives us day in, day out. It's never about, a short-term thing or exit. And, for me, it's very important that we are doing stuff to help a restaurant, help that business thrive, especially with the heritage, that I have. And that's key for any entrepreneur, I think. If you're doing a business that you're not passionate about, I think it's very hard to do it on the long run, because you will have a lot of up and downs, and you need to have that, inherent passion and inherent a goal to make it succeed. Yeah. Also, it's never about one product, because a market is changing rapidly. So you need to evolve continuously. So if you're not passionate about your industry or the people or the customers you are helping and serving, it's hard to succeed on the long term. And my opinion is, if you have a very true purpose and you are on that path to help these customers or these businesses, you will succeed financially as well, team-wise, because all the rest will follow. I think second thing, what's very important in what I'm doing is that once we in our market of hospitality, there's a lot of opportunities, but I'm a true believer in looking at waves of changes, right? Because there's nothing wrong doing any business that is linear scaling, but I think we only have a short time span that we are able to work and make some very big impact. So I'm always looking into technologies, or more important, market shifts that's going to define your market, right? And two examples of this is the first and the second company. So I think when we started out in 2010, the market shift was the rise of iPad, right? So move from very ancient, bulky point of sale system to consumer hardware, where the cost is low, where it's cloud-based, where you do not need to drive 50 kilometers to press a button to enable something, right? So that's mainly pushed us in the first phase as a game changer and allowed us really to jump that curve from something very unscalable to something where you could download from the App Store. It's so normal today, but back then I can guarantee you, when I talked to investors and I told them we have 3,000, 4,000 leads a day through the App Store, nobody believed us. They were like, how are you going to do that? Standard, you need to drive to these restaurants, knock on their door, set up meetings, and etc. So the second part of that jump the wave is again, this time was with Deliverect was the riding the wave, I would say, the game and shifting of offline online. Again, when we started in 2017, 18, without COVID, most restaurants or people in our business said, hey, Zhong, this transition of offline online, it's never going to happen. It's going to be very slow. But since that COVID happened, you saw a complete jump of this industry, where before only 30% of, I would say, sales comes from online in a restaurant through delivery and takeaway, and today it's almost 70 to 80%, right? And that's really interesting to see, because once you have such a market shift, it means that you can ride a massive wave and make a big dent in a very short time. Right? You still need to make the product, but having that jump excels you at a different rate than linear growth. It allows you to really grow as an exponential business. So if you can, find that wave. Third, I think, point that is everything is timing. I think as any starting entrepreneur, when I was young, I thought, hey, what's most important is having the idea. I need to have the idea. So all these, entrepreneurs with amazing ideas succeeding and so on. I think, in hindsight, after a couple of years, I learned, the only thing that really matters, and that's the key factor of everything, is timing, right? Timing means also execution. So it means that sometimes you need to jump ship to start earlier on, or sometimes you need to wait until the market's ready, right? So the first time, I think, again, two times why we are successful, the first company and second is, while the first company, our timing was impeccable. We launched when the iPad 1 was out, but only a year after. So, when the iPad 2 came out, where it was, way quicker, way scalable, and we had all these consumer technology there to bring our product to the masses. And this time, our timing was as well perfect, because although I had this idea of aggregating online channels for restaurants, we really waited until the delivery players are mature as well. Right, so that we waited until they have API so that we can build a sustainable product, and we started in 2018, and allow us to build our product in 1 year. That's the time it takes to make a product, and when we launched, we had enough traction. And of course, you could say that COVID happens. I read it didn't happen, but because of that, and we had a product ready, but also a go-to-market team set up, as well funding, it's even accelerated us even more in this market. So timing is, I think, the defining factor. Had we waited a year later, we were not ready to tackle this market. Had we started earlier on, it was also not good, because then we never would have had our exponential growth. So that means that we will not maybe attract the best people, the people that want to win, or attract the right investor that really believes in your scalable model. So this is also a defining factor in any business you should do, and you should keep in mind. Sometimes you should wait a bit, or sometimes you should jump, even if you're in golden cage. A fourth thing is, I think, it's obvious, but at the end of the day, you need to do it. And more importantly is, you need to do it even if there's a lot of reasons why you should not do it. And I have that quite history. So when we started in 2010, it was definitely the wrong moment to start a business. Because why? I just worked for a year in a bigger company. I just bought a house. I had a very big mortgage, and even my wife got pregnant with our first kid. So I literally coded the solution, in the hospital, and helping, restaurants around the world to scale that. Then, in hindsight, that was a very stupid idea, because having a kid at the same time trying to running a startup was quite killing. I think the only benefits of this is, once you have a kid, you don't sleep, so you can work, I think, 20 hours a day. And because although we are in Europe, we had customers in even Australia, that helped us really to scale globally. I still remember when, I had some restaurants calling my personal number because we didn't have a support number at 3 a.m. in the morning. I always, picked up the phone and said, hey, this is Posios International Support speaking. And these guys were amazed. Like, okay, that's an amazing startup. We can call them whenever, and they always answers. But nobody knew that I was just sitting there because I could not sleep because my kid was crying all night, right? So that was the first time, and then the second time, I think it was meant to be. I got my my son was born. I think again that was a defining factor where I said, hey, maybe it's meant to start something new. So it's the message is whatever is, there's so many reasons why not to do it. I think if you believe in something, you should just do it, right? In life, the biggest mistake is having regrets. If I had failed, I would still not have regretted. If I didn't have tried it, I would have really had deep regret. So for every entrepreneur or guys doing it, I think, just go for it, make these changes and go for it, right? A third point is, don't worry, when you start a company, you don't need money. Yeah, I think everyone want to raise and have VC capital and so on. The first time and the second time, and in the second time I have a lot of money, but my motto is be scrappy and bootstrap. Go to an incubator, go into survive mode, build your own booths when you're doing expos. Sit together in a small area, go to your own customers. Show them that you're a startup. I think that's really embeds and create a mentality of go-getters. And it will bring you and get you a lot of nice stories during the way that can make your culture. And that brings to one of the other very important side of it. So start with the culture. I think the lessons learned through the years is you will scale. And what makes a difference is not going to be your products and so on. It's all boils down to people. So having a strong culture up front gonna make the difference, because when you're with 10, you have a big impact. But once you're with 100 or 1,000 people, it's all depends on the people that are there. That's gonna help you to survive and thrive. And we at Deliverect, as well as before the Posios, we had a strong culture where people really believe in what they're doing and go all. So it also means that they are fully empowered to make changes. Another thing, I think it's very important, and this is a big advice when I have a lot of startups that I'm on board or advisor on, is sell your product even if you're have no product. Make sure you can go to market and validate it very quickly. I think a lot of entrepreneurs always want to make the perfect product. What I said, be scrappy. It also means sell your product even if it's a vision. You need to check it and recheck it. Each time when we have a product, we always sold a vision and saw if there's a market for it. In Deliverect, our first customer was a massive restaurant chain, and they had this issue of aggregation. So before I even made any software, I said, okay, I'm going to make this for you, but are you ready to pay for it? And that makes a big difference. Besides selling, I think another top point, and that's one of maybe the most important points, is invest very early on from day one in your customer success and having a way of making your early adopters and your customers happy. I think this is something very quickly forgotten. You make a product, you sell it, but you forget the first customers to handhold them, even when your product's not perfect, making sure they feel that they are listened to, and make these changes very quickly for them. So heavily investing in customer experience is going to pay off really in the long run, and it's something I see, luckily more and more startups doing it, but still not enough. I think that's also critical. Yeah. And although I said 8 points, I think the last point where it's very important and makes a ton of differences. Whatever you do, please under-promise and over-deliver. Yeah, you can tell a big vision. You can go for amazing multiples evaluation, but make sure whatever you do, over-deliver what you say. Right? If you're talking to investors or your team members and so on, make sure you can keep your promises. Because if you don't, the thing will fall apart really quickly. I think that's it for my time. If there are questions, I'm looking forward to answer them. But thank you again to listen to me, and I hope there were some lessons learned. And if you have any questions or you want to reach out and you want to learn more about Deliverect or some advices, or you're looking for general advice, you can always contact me directly. I'm very open, and my LinkedIn is also always open. Okay. Thank you for your time. And good luck and have fun with other sessions today.